Another influencer is being sued this time by the Texas state government, and she's about to go on trial next week. I'm Kevin Nooper. I'm an attorney at Nooper and Covey, and I want to talk to y'all today about what the Brittany Dawn lawsuit by the Texas Attorney General is about, why they're doing it, what she's alleged to have done, which is another sort of influencer false advertising type scenario, and what you can do if you're an influencer to avoid getting in this kind of situation if you're trying to start your own brand. And I'm trying to give you some advice later on in the video about uh, what do you do if you are wanting to start one of your own sort of products or brands and try to make money that way. What are the things that you can do to avoid kind of getting in this same type of situation and not have a state government going after you, and maybe actually make more money and make your audience a lot happier with better products? So I want to start with the background of what this whole lawsuit's about. If you've never heard of Brittany Dawn, don't know who she is, there's a lot of drama around it. She used to be a fitness influencer, and that kind of went into total disaster, and now is a Christianity influencer. The fitness part of it is the problem, and that's where this lawsuit by the Texas state government comes into play, and kind of what happened with that. So she starts out like most influencers and is getting attention and making videos and on TikTok, and Instagram has a very large presence, more than 1 million followers on TikTok, and starts trying to sell her own product, which is something that if you're an influencer, you probably have thought about this. Anyone who sort of has ambitions to be a big influencer knows that the way that a lot of them make their money is sometimes through sponsored posts and things like that. But the big money is not in endorsing someone else's product, it's in making your own product. So a lot of influencers try to make that jump. They'll try to sell courses. They'll try to, which is kind of a variant of what was going on here. Or they'll try to sell some kind of product. A lot of people are making drinks now. But the problem comes when you try to do that with no experience in doing it. And that appears to be kind of what happened here. The Texas state government sued her. It said that she was basically offering these, what were supposed to be individually customized courses, or not really courses. There were kind of fitness coaching, nutrition coaching, and plans that would be customized to your body, to your height, your weight, kind of metabolic type stuff to get you to your specific fitness goals. And then you were going to get individualized coaching from Brittany about what to do, to reach your fitness and nutritional goals. The state of Texas is saying no, this was not anything close to that, that actually they were just getting very generic stuff. And so I want to show you the lawsuit first, walk you through kind of what's happening and what's going to be on trial next week. And then at the end of this, I'll start talking about kind of advice on, and I'm actually a consumer lawyer, so I sue people all day over bad products or lying about products or false advertising. And we've had some lawsuits against influencers doing stuff like this as well. And so how can you not get in this situation, and what's really the best way to sort of deal fairly with your audience, which is ultimately selling a good product and being a trusted source to people who are watching you is the best way to make money in the long run, rather than just trying to make quick bucks with crypto scams or NFT things or whatever from your audience. Okay, so this is a copy of the actual lawsuit, and I'm going to get into some legal details here to show you kind of how these lawsuits work, why you never want to get something that says State of Texas versus you. And so this one, you can see here at the top, State of Texas is the plaintiff. That means they're the ones suing Brittany Dawn Davis, which is her real name, and then her company. They're acting through the Attorney General, and they're using the Texas Deceptive Trade Practices Consumer Protection Act. And this is actually a real good law. I use a lot in lawsuits against people, or arbitrations against people who are doing false advertising, things like that. It allows either you as a sort of a private plaintiff, or the Texas Attorney General can get involved and decide that they're going to do something about false advertising, and either of you can kind of sue to stop people from doing false advertising in the state of Texas. It's a very strong law. It's one of the, I think, better consumer laws in the country, and the Texas Attorney General is using it against her and seeking up to $1 million in penalties, attorney's fees, costs against Brittany Dawn. So this says she's a Texas resident. Says she's doing business through this company called Brittany Dawn Fitness LLC. That's something that influencers, just for sort of influencer advice, it always is good to have a corporation that can protect you. You can see in this case, people will tell you, oh, if you have an LLC, you're safe. You are not generally protected from liability if you are the one doing the stuff. So an LLC can protect you, especially if you have employees. It can sort of give you protection from what they do, but this whole corporations protect you thing that people have as an idea in their head, not as true as it sounds sometimes, because if it's, let's say you're the one doing the false advertising that's alleged in this case, you don't get to hide behind the company. If your vice president of your company goes off and does something that you don't know about, well, then yes, you have sort of protection, and the only assets at risk are the companies. But you can't just use a company to sort of protect yourself from stuff that you're doing yourself. So we scroll down here and we see this is a lot of legal stuff about where they're doing the suit, and they're they're just saying all this stuff that they have to get into court. You got to say, oh, I meet these certain requirements, and then they get down to what they're alleging happened here. And you can see that this says that Brittany Dawn, basically starting in 2014, was selling these online fitness packages to thousands of consumers, and it was going to be personalized nutritional guidance and individualized fitness coaching. And all these are allegations, and they haven't been proven in court yet. But next week, we should find out. It looks like this is going to go to trial, and unless they get some last-minute settlement or something, a jury will decide what the truth of all this is. But this is what the Texas Attorney General has been saying in the case. They say that there was going to be they were offering, or Brittany was offering daily or weekly email training. She was offering one-on-one coaching. There are different packages that you could get up to $300, but they actually were not individualized. And that if people complained about that, she just kind of ignored them or give them a partial refund or whatever, and finally had to make an apology video and take down the website after there was a bunch of media attention about all this stuff sort of going wrong. So what are some examples of what was wrong with these fitness plans? You can see a lot of this is just standard influence stuff, right? Like, of course, a fitness influencer will be posting pictures of themselves and doing workouts and things like that. Nothing wrong with that being an influencer. There's supposed to be macro consults that she was selling, which were you can see like bridal or bikini competition plans and daily text emails and check-ins, and there's nothing wrong with doing that either. You can be a fitness coach. You can be gyms have these all the time, right? You go to a gym, you're going to have a workout coach person. They may come up to you and be like, "Hey, I'll help you work out for a price." And there's nothing wrong with that as a business plan if you do what you promise. That's really what this all comes down to is doing kind of what you're promising to people. And if you don't, when you're selling a product as an influencer or selling a service, and this would be a service, I'm going to coach you, you get into trouble where you don't do what you say you will, or where your product is kind of junk and you're hyping it up as something that it's not. So this says, here's where we get to the problems. Regardless of what they purchased, they were supposed to get individualized coaching by Brittany Davis. So you think that this influencer is going to come in and be your coach, your confidant, your biggest supporter and friend, to push you, mold you, and to help you find that person you've always wanted to become. So they send these emails, and you can see this sort of standard email is, I'll be making adjustments for you as needed for the 4 to 12 weeks. So they're supposed to be like macronutrients that are customized based on your weight, height, goals, activity levels. It's supposed to be Brittany Davis personally adjusting these. And when you sort of think doing this for thousands of people, one human being really is not going to have time to do that, for thousands upon thousands of people, which is part of the problem is, as an influencer selling your personal services, at these price points are actually pretty low for something like a personalized coaching plan from a sort of famous influencer. That's something you're not going to be able to meet what you're promising if you're saying you're going to do that. And that's kind of what it looks like happened here. So they say one of the customers bought one of these plans and then it was never adjusted. Another customer didn't receive any contact from her after 2 weeks. And then down here's kind of an interesting part is people were saying, here's what our these individualized texts were that I was getting. And you can kind of see here the texts that people were getting that were supposedly individualized to them were, "That's my girl, you're killing it," or "You've got this, babe." And if you paid a bunch of money for individualized coaching from someone or a fitness coach, you probably would not be happy if you just got some generic plan and someone sending you messages that could really go to anyone in the universe. Then it says that people started complaining in these communities, and then they were checking with their friends and finding like, oh, my friend's got the exact same plan as me, so how is that individualized? Other people seeing that they didn't take into account like limitations they had, because you may not be able to work out if you've got some injury or something like that. You may not have certain exercises you could do. So those are the kind of things that you need an individualized plan around. And then also she was not doing the macronutrient thing that she was promising, according to the Texas AG. The consumers were comparing like, you know, the calorie suggestions. And so this one's kind of crazy. Two consumers compare their plans that were supposedly individualized, and they were the person who weighs 140 pounds more than the other one at the same height had basically the same calorie suggestion, which is not well thought out, I suppose, if that's what happened. Um, you can see people passing out. This person says they passed out from trying to do this, and so it really was just a lot of problems with sort of what was going on with these plans. And then this part of the lawsuit. So if you're wondering sort of why was Brittany Dawn sued by the Texas government specifically, I really think this is why as an attorney. So I can tell you that the attorney generals of states kind of have to pick their battles because there is so much false advertising going on. So much we are like our firm gets overwhelmed with calls from all around the country. We get hundreds of calls a week with people with just random different problems, and that's because there's sort of not enough man or resources trying to enforce these consumer protection laws and these false advertising laws. There's not enough private lawyers on it. There's not enough government lawyers on it. It's really a big problem. But that means that the state governments pick and choose. And so they try to pick cases where there's sort of the most impact. And I think what drew them onto this, as opposed to other influencers who do all kind of stuff where they don't do what they promise, like why are they not shutting down an NFT scam? Why are they not shutting down a crypto thing? It really was stuff having to do with eating disorders. And it's kind of a sensitive issue, but this is, I think, part of what really drove this is that there are some people who were going in for these custom plans, and part of the reason that they're saying that they went in is that some of the videos that Brittany Dawn was posting on YouTube, the state attorney general is making people is alleging that it made people think that she had some kind of special training or expertise to deal with eating disorders, and so there were people choosing her or saying that they chose her specifically because this says that one person chose her because she advertised herself as an eating disorder soldier, and it was incredibly important to me that the person I chose to coach had an idea of what it was like to deal with an eating disorder, and but that you know even when people would tell her like I have an eating disorder, that she would go ahead and give them these sort of generic plans. This is the kind of the extra thing that would really concern the attorney general, um, because it becomes not just false advertising, but someone who has an eating disorder has specialized needs that you really probably it crosses lines from just like having a fitness coach or a nutrition coach into where you have issues that require probably medical professionals or someone who is not just kind of doing this as an internet influencer plan, but has a medical degree or psychologists, or it's really kind of a mix of different things that are going to require you to watch that person much more closely. You're going to want to have doctors doing tests on sort of health and blood tests and things like that. And when a state attorney general sees someone just sort of running around doing something that really crosses into this line of medical advice, crosses into this line of a doctor should be involved, that's the kind of thing that they're going to pick that out real fast out of all this stuff going on TikTok, YouTube. It's going to stand out. And products or things that claim to solve health issues, products that claim, oh, it'll do this to the human body, those start getting more attention, and they really are more dangerous, is kind of what, if you start thinking about this, whether she was intending to do this or not, and I don't know all the facts of all this, but this is what people are saying in the lawsuit, what the Attorney General is saying. I will say that taking upon yourself kind of this role of a nutritional coach for someone who has more serious issues is something that that is a you don't want to be doing that in general if you don't have that expertise, and it is dangerous, like literally physically dangerous to the person. There are products that I've seen sold online that are dangerous to people or animals, because the people selling them are essentially trying to act kind of in a health professional or doctor role. Don't do that. Don't do that, because if something goes wrong, it can be. If all this is true, I will say she is actually kind of lucky that this just ended up as a civil lawsuit about money, because if something more serious had happened, sort of with her in this role, it could have gone, it could have been like an Alec Baldwin type situation where there was a criminal case and not a civil one. And so we all should be very glad that this just is a civil lawsuit. And so now I want to talk to you all a little bit about what do you do if you're an influencer and you want to start your own product? Okay, so let's say you're an influencer and you don't want to get into this situation. We don't know what's going to happen, but certainly, like, even if you win your trial after a year of doing this, a bunch of public attention, people are making videos about this, there's news stories all about this. That's a huge negative. It's damage to your reputation. Your audience stops trusting you, which is if you're trying to be an influencer and your audience stops trusting you, you've burnt everything. So you have to be honest and sort of straight up if you want in the long run to do the best, whether on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, anywhere. It's all about being trustworthy. And if you're selling a product, endorsing a product, whatever, you should check that product out. You should trust that product. If you're making the product, you've got kind of even a heightened, I think, just sort of social responsibility, but also legal responsibility. Because when you make the product, you can't really hide behind someone else being responsible for it. You're the one who made this, so any problems with it, they ultimately fall on you. There's no, oh, I didn't know what it was doing. Oh, I just got paid to say to hold up a bottle of this. Um, Doing that jump puts more legal responsibility on you and just really just more moral responsibility in terms of protecting your audience and protecting the people you're selling stuff to, and doing right by them. So if you're an influencer, the way to make the most money is to have your own product or brand ultimately. That is, you will never, ever, ever make as much with some sponsored post as with having your own company, your own business, or even just a percentage of your own business. But the thing that you have to realize as you're sort of coming up, as you're building an audience, building a brand, most of what you're doing on YouTube, TikTok, uh, Instagram, it's marketing. It is one part of a business. So just because you are an expert on how to get views on TikTok does not mean that you are capable of doing a nutrition plan for somebody or that you are capable of making a safe and healthy, energy drink or something. Um, Selling any kind of physical product is orders of magnitude harder in terms of the problems that can come up. That things can get contaminated. Things can, you have to find out where to source the product. Source means go buy it. If you're getting it from China, you can have real problems with that because there are companies out there that are just fly by night that are selling junk to Americans that they are like, oh, I'll just sell this guy, 100 pallets of junk, and what's he going to do? I'm in China. You can't come sue me, and that happens. And so you are taking on a lot more problems whenever you try to make this leap from being someone accepting sponsored posts to someone who is running not just the marketing part of the business, but the full business itself, shipping, fulfillment, uh, you know, like design of the product, all these different things. What she's trying to do is sort of the easier. The reason a lot of influencers go to courses first is because courses are sort of not as hard to make. You're not selling a physical product. Um, there are ways that can go real wrong too if you are promising jobs, promising courses, like, oh, you'll get a job if you do this, or your promise could be false. You could overhype it. You could not provide a lot of value. If you make some course that people are thinking they're going to get extra value, extra content, and they don't get it, they might not be happy. But the more sort of you take on, so when it's, I'm going to personally coach you and give you nutritional advice, it's a step up, and it needs to be done better to actually be implemented correctly. Um, so you're an influencer. You don't have a product. You've never had a product before. You want to make that leap. What can you do? I think it probably makes a lot more sense for people who don't have experience running the business part of things and who have only done the marketing. And so if you got a million followers or something, 100,000 YouTube subscribers, you have a talent. You have a marketing talent. But you should try to pair with someone who has operational talents or a company that has operational talents so that you don't mess stuff up and so that people who have that experience can sort of uh, be the ones you're pairing with on your first product. How do you do that? There are some influencers who get managers or agents who arrange that. I think what is happening is there's sort of this gap area where um, if if you're super famous, it's really easy to get people to want to do deals with you. If you have 500,000, a million TikTok followers, that's really not enough to go attract someone to say, I want to have the Brittany Davis sports drink or whatever. They're not going to come knocking on your door. They may, but um, you know there's plenty of people to choose from. So what can you do if you have a product idea and you want to start selling that product idea? Well, first thing that I would suggest, and a very good way to try to find someone to have a business partnership with if you don't know anybody, is there's conferences in really any area that you're an influencer in. You could probably find people whose whole kind of business career is starting this kind of product and then pair up with one of them and say, hey, I want it could be the Kevin Nooper, I don't know, whatever you do. I'm a lawyer, and so I'm running a law firm, and that's kind of what I advertise as me being a lawyer on consumer issues. But let's say I was a cook, like I'm Gordon Ramsay. You could have the Gordon Ramsay branded cutting knives or the Gordon Ramsay recipe book or whatever. A book is easy to make, but if you want to make a set of steak knives or the Gordon Ramsay automatic orange peeler, you have to go find someone who knows how to do that. There are conferences in the cooking sphere or kitchen type product sphere where you can go there, and they will just be in Vegas or someplace. There's a giant, they'll find like a convention, they call them a convention center, right? Because they have conventions there. And guys, or men and women, everyone who's in the cooking field will go to this place that has basically what's like a giant football field sized area of vendors. And those vendors are people who try to help you set up kitchen products. There will be people there who say, I will do something called white labeling. So you may be able to find someone who literally, so white labeling is when they call it white label. So you imagine a label on a set of steak knives. When they say white label, they mean I'm going to hand you steak knives with this white blank spot on it that you can say the Kevin Nooper steak knives, and or whoever, right? You can plug in any name. You could change. I could, Bilbo Baggins steak knives, whatever name you want to stick on there. And so they call it white labeling because it just comes like they will take your logo, your label rather, or your logo or whatever. You design what you want on the front of these steak knives, and I'm going to hand you however many you want. You want to order 1,000 steak knives? You want me to? Sometimes it's you want me to ship the steak knives. Just give me the address. Run. There's software that'll do that. You can plug all this together without knowing any parts of the business, but you kind of have to have expertise in doing that to do it well. If you're going to one of these conferences, VidCon would be the conference for YouTubers and TikTokers and stuff. The same kind of thing will exist for any industry. For the fitness industry, there's going to be a conference of people doing this. For lawyers, have conferences about how they advertise for cases, how they run their law firms. I've been to those conferences, and when you go to those, the whole point of going to one of these is to meet people in your industry and build connections and business relationships. So if let's say you're a cooking influencer and you want to go to some cooking conference, you start looking. They'll be called industry conferences, industry conventions. You search on Google for the name of your type of industry, something about what you're doing. Is it fitness? Is it cooking? Is it, you kind of think up the type of product that you want to do, and go try to find a conference that would have that. Well, how do you know if this conference is worth spending the $500 to go? Because it could be 500 to 1,000 to go to one of these, and then that's not even counting for, that's just the ticket price. Then you got to pay plane ticket, hotel, whatever. Um, but you gotta, if you're at the level of 1 million TikTok followers, you probably can get a sponsor post that will pay for you to go to one of these. So what you want to look at is the vendor list and start looking up some of the vendors at these conferences, because you'll see, what do they do? Are there a bunch of companies there that white label steak knives? Are there a bunch of companies there that ship steak knives? Are there companies offering to do this? If I look up their names of the people who are the sponsors of the conference, the vendors, are they the type of people I would want to form a business partnership? And you don't necessarily have to go partner with those guys. Those guys are going to expect you to have kind of your own business structure in place. But you could meet people at these conferences who have done this before and say, hey, look at my TikTok. There's 1 million followers on it. They all love my cooking recipes. And I use steak knives in everyone. Like, look at my videos. It's all steak knife, whatever you're doing. It could be olive oil. I don't know. And so, but you take your product idea, find the kind of people who make that kind of product, and go find people who want to make that kind of product but need a face for the brand, and negotiate a percentage. I'll get this percentage of the company. You can hire lawyers to. I don't do this, so I'm not advertising for myself, but there are lawyers who all they do is negotiate contracts. So you can have a lawyer review the contract. You can. The other thing that you could do is you could go to local business networking events. Business schools actually. One potential resource for this is everybody going to business school wants to start a business. Like, they all either want to go work in a company, managing a company, or a lot of them, when they're younger, want to start a business. And so they'll have competitions for starting a business, or like pitching ideas for it. They'll call it pitch competitions. And so people will go come up with ideas. They try to find other people at their business school that they want to work on teams with. I have friends who went to business school and used that to sort of find potential business partners. There's no reason you can't go down to these like networking events in your area from the local business school. They're not going to kick you out if you're looking around. A lot of them are open to the public. If you go to these business pitch competitions, you just go to the cocktail party after, because they have them. Here's a networking party. Everybody go kind of talk to each other. It's not weird to go and say, hey, any of you guys, like, I'm just looking around for someone who wants to start an olive oil company with me, and I already have the audience, and all I need is someone who can help me handle all the stuff that I don't know how to do, which is starting the company. So those are all ways that you can do this legitimately, that you can bring in someone with experience. And that's really kind of the key point, is don't try to do it yourself if you don't think your talent is running a business. If you started a business, this is kind of what I'm doing is I have a law firm first, and we're getting clients on it, and so I'm building up a channel where people are going to see me, and you kind of have an idea of who I am, and um, whether am I some Yahoo, am I the guy on TV driving tanks over cars or whatever. Like there's different lawyers where people, they want to at least kind of know who their lawyer is before they hire them. Um, but that's kind of the reverse, right? Like I for have spent almost 20 years doing this, and almost 4 or 5 years now in running my own law firm. So the business came first. The marketing and the going online, doing TikTok and all that came second. So I already know how to run the business. A lot of people who are influencers do not know the business part. And so that will be the hardest part of your jump if you are trying to go from just getting money off sponsored posts, or getting money off YouTube paid views, to the the you product. You 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 your first product doesn't have to be your best one, right? It doesn't have to be the one that you make the most money off of either. You can make a product with someone, take a 5% cut, take a 25% cut, or go 50-50, and or whatever it is. And if that one works well, or even if it doesn't work well, you can go switch to the next one. But always, I think what I would say is always make sure your advertising claims are truthful. Always make sure you believe in the product that you're selling. Always make sure that your product is high quality. If you get attached to a product that's low quality, you've got to find someone to ditch it. You can't be promoting products that are terrible to your audience. And you have to go make sure that if you are going to make that jump, if you're going to start a business, that you've done some of these things to go learn about how the business works, to find people that you can bring in. And if you're having to give up a chunk of the first product you create, that's not the end of your life. You will live a long time. If you're an influencer and your audience trusts you, you will have a long career, because that's really the reason why people want to buy from some influencer, is because they trust that that person will deal with them fairly. If you don't deal with your audience fairly, you're done. If you want to hear more legal analysis, or just sort of I weave advice into these things sometimes, you can subscribe to my channel. I'll have a bunch of answers to random legal questions, just all kinds of stuff, kind of dealing with law and crazy influencer lawsuits and things like that I find interesting. So hopefully this is helpful to some of y'all who are trying to do your come up.